My guest is a former WWE Tag Team Champion, Hardcore Champion. He's one half of the legendary tag team, the Headbangers. You know him as Thrasher. Glenn, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, but let me help you with that introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the most underrated tag team in the world today, former NWA World Tag Team Champs, former WWF Tag Team Champs, and the current Tag Team Champs of the universe. Again, the most underrated tag team in the world today, the Headbangers, Headbanger Thrasher. There you go. With the greatest tag team finisher in the business ever, the stage dive. There you go.
Very good, sir. I appreciate that. I appreciate
There you go.
you taking the time out to come onto the show today. It means a lot. I mean that.
I know it's Friday night, 8:00. What are you thinking? I should have charged you double.
So let's go back a little bit. What made you want to get into professional wrestling? What was it that hooked you to get into this crazy sport?
Man. So, I was never really a big fan of pro wrestling. I always was intrigued, was curious about it. Growing up from the time I was, 5, 6, whatever age you could start playing, Pop Warner football, Pee Wee football, your township football, I played. So I played all the way up through high school, and then I played basketball my freshman year in high school because, of course, I was 6'4", 145, 60 pounds, something like that. And I went out for the team. I made the JV team as a freshman. It was great. My brother said to me, he goes, "Oh, you're playing basketball because you can't do a real sport like wrestling." So my mom promised me if I made the team, she'd get me, these great sneakers, that, back then, talking about in the early or late 70s, early 80s, these sneakers and stuff like that I could have for school. And so I got the sneakers. Then I quit the basketball team, went out for wrestling. I was on the JV varsity wrestling team as a freshman. And I wrestled all 4 years through high school. And, like I said, I was never really a huge, wrestling fan, but always curious. So in our area, South Jersey, South Philly, we had the Philadelphia Spectrum way back in the day. When cable first came out, they had a channel called Prism. And once a month on Prism, they had Spectrum Wrestling. And it was the WWF, 3 W's, Worldwide Wrestling Federation. So I would go over to my aunt's house. She had the cable TV. She was a little, Richie aunt. So I went over there, once a month and I watched it. And then, one by chance, they came to a high school that was down near me. It was Highland High School. And I went and I saw Hulk Hogan was there, and I saw Terry Gurria, the Polish Hammer, Ivan Putski was there, like all these guys, and I was fascinated by it. So then, I graduated high school, nothing really, still just occasionally watched it. Graduated high school, and I still wrestled, it was called the AAUs, and we had a tournament in Paulsboro, and it was right across the street from the legendary wrestling school, the Monster Factory. So I went over and I looked in the windows and peeked around and stuff like that, and always looked. But I was never, I'm 6'4", 160 pounds, soaking wet. So I wrestled at a real lightweight, like I wrestled 157. And then when I played football in high school, I played football at like 190, 195, 200. So I went through like a drastic weight change through high school. So it was always something that I was never really serious about. So then Larry, the owner of the Monster Factory at the time, would send out postcards. Back then, they had postcards, and they would mail them to your house and all kinds of stuff like that. And it said free tryout, and it had the emblem of the Monster Factory with that monster squishing the chicken or whatever it was. So I would call up the school and just find out more information, and he'd answer the phone. He goes, "Monster Factory, get monsterized!" And he would yell, and it was so over intimidating. I would hang up. Like I did that like 3 or 4 times. So then he said he was having. So then I finally got the courage to talk to him about it and everything else. Now I've graduated high school. I really didn't have anything going on. I went to computer school for computer operations, so I could operate like the big mainframe computers and run payroll checks and stuff like that. So I was working 9 at night to 7 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Thursday. So one Thursday night, I just said, "Hey, I'm going to call out sick." I went down to Monster Factory. It was June 7th on a Thursday, 1991, I believe it was. So I went down there. There was like, I walked into this. It was a dive. When I tell you this school was a dive, it was a dive. You could stand in the middle of a ring and touch the roof like this. There was no high flying moves going on in there. It looked like it was an old deli, it was just basic. So I walked in and there's all these lights and cameras and TV people everywhere, and I'm going, holy shit, what the hell is going on here? So I find out it's Australia TV doing a special in the Monster Factory and all the stars that they've been training. So I go through and there's like 8 of us there, and we do a tryout, and he shows you how to do a back fall, a handstand fall, and then a front flip and land on your back without banging your head, how to run the ropes, because there is a correct way of running the ropes. So he just wanted to basically see how athletic you are. Mm-hmm. So then he would take us one-on-one back into the office and talk to us. So I see all these guys, they go in and out. This one guy comes out that I started talking to at the tryout, and he was like, "Man, I went in there. I thought, I had $3,000 cash for him. He told me no." I went, holy shit. So I went in there. I said, "Listen, before you say anything, I really did enjoy that. Let me put on some weight and come back and try out again, because I understand that I'm skinny." He was like, "Kid, it's a lot easier to teach you how to do all these flips and jumps and all that other shit at 160 pounds than it is at 210. So it made a lot of sense. So I said, I would love to do it. I gave him $1,500 cash right then and there. And then every week I gave him $100 for 15 weeks. I had my first match, I believe it was in the end of July, beginning of August, at the Cowtown Rodeo. Way down in South Jersey, way down in South Jersey. The South Jersey people will know where Cowtown Rodeo is. It's still there, from what I know. So, and then in December, I got booked over in Japan for Giant Baba, his group from Dory Funk Sr. was, I guess, the booker over there at the time and stuff like that, and he was friends with Larry. The Nasty Boys were over there. They got signed to WWF or WWE at the time, and they needed somebody real quick to fill in. So that was the whole gist of the start of everything, and it was crazy. My first, I want to say, 6 to 9 months in the business was a total whirlwind. It was just incredible. It was definitely a big introduction to the business, and I was like, you know what? I enjoy this. This is, because I always had something physical in my life. So when I was doing the computer stuff, I didn't have any, I don't want to say outlet, to have that physical contact and stuff like that. So the wrestling actually did that. And now I don't know what I'm going to do when we actually stop wrestling in the ring. So it's going to be a tough one.
Was there anything that was maybe harder for you to pick up when you first started, or did it just come natural for you?
It was weird. It was all like pretty natural for me and everything, and everything. Nothing was really hard. It was more like the psychology of how a match is built and everything else. And then within time, I mean, you get it, you understand. Because Larry used to do, like, we called them school shows or house shows or factory shows. And he used to do them once a month. And he would bring in, like, Jerry the King Lawler. He would bring in, Cowboy Bob Orton. He would bring in Jim Cornette. He would bring in Jerry the King Lawler. He would bring in Abdullah the Butcher, like all these people and stuff like that. And back then, you weren't allowed talking in the locker room. It was shut your mouth and open your ears. So that's all I did. I sat there. I listened to the veterans talk and teach. And it wasn't. It was a different time back then. So yeah, I mean, I would say the thing that I had to learn how to pick up was the psychology of everything of the flow of the match.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that goes with everybody when they first start.
Doing all what you did in the first couple months, was any of that intimidating? Like going to Japan,
Oh my God.
You're like diving right in.
Yeah, I mean, everything was intimidating. Everything felt like it happened so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it was weird because the guy I went over to Japan with, we went over as the Favorite brothers, Frankie and Johnny Favorite. He was already wrestling as Johnny Favorite. I was Frankie Favorite. So we were friends from the school, but he went over there and he got hurt within the first 3 matches that we had over there because the Japanese style is a little bit different than the American style. They don't really tell you what's going on. You pretty much have to, especially back then. So then I just got thrown into a lot of 6-man matches. I was tag teaming with Danny Spivey and Stan Hansen against Kamala 2, Abdullah the Butcher, and Giant Baba. I was thrown right into the middle of, it was crazy. Dan Spivey and Stan Hansen were just, 2 of the nicest guys that would help you out.
Mm-hmm.
Stan Hansen was a legend in Japan for years. He would go out with that cowbell and swing it around his head, and it was like the seas just parted. He was incredible. And then you have Abdullah the Butcher come out, and he just runs straight through the crowd, and they part the same way. It's just crazy. It was definitely an education.
How was it when you came back from Japan? Did you start venturing out of that Jersey area more?
I didn't because I was still in the singles. I was still very timid, I want to say, with the travel and stuff like that. I went, I was Larry's right hand, down the factory. I came back and it was pretty much, I did, a lot of the training for him at the school and stuff like that because he was getting to the point where, he didn't really want to get in the ring as much. If he had somebody that he could have trained the people for him and he could just sit there and say, no, I want it done like this. And then I would do it like that. And then, something that he could we did everything together. I went to the gym with Larry. I ate with Larry, we did everything together. And that's, I was his right hand. He's the one that named me. My first wrestling name is the Spider. Mm-hmm. And I never understood why he did it. And then he goes, I named you the Spider because of one reason. He goes, there was a guy back when I was wrestling that was tall, skinny, lanky, and he wore a mask. And he wore a mask because he also played pro baseball. And he was a catcher. And he didn't want, during the off season, he would wrestle. And he was like, do you know who that is? I'm like, no, I don't know who that is. He was like Randy Macho Man Savage. And it was weird because years later, I was able to sit down with Lanny after Randy passed, and I told him the story. And he was like, he looked at me, he was like, that was you? Like, he knew of the gimmick of the Spider and stuff like that. And it was just, it was neat. It was neat. I was blown away that, he knew about the gimmick and everything else. So.
When did you feel like you were starting to get your name out there and venturing out a little more?
When Chaz came down to school, mm-hmm. I would say Chaz came down. He like saw a show. I talked to him after a show. We knew of each other, but we didn't know each other. Like our schools in high school wrestled against each other. So I knew of him, but just didn't know him. And then he came down to school and we clicked right away. So once he came down and, he was in the ring training maybe 3 weeks before he stepped foot in a WWE ring to get for, the enhancement matches. So, it was I want to say 9 months to a year before we ventured out to USW. Because when Larry brought all these big names down here, Jerry Lawler, Jimmy Cornette, they always offered, for me to come down and, work USWA, work Smoky Mountain, or work, where Cornette was and stuff like that. But I never wanted to do it because I heard the stories. Mm-hmm. I was one person alone by myself. I didn't want to do that. So once Chaz got there and we got together and we started doing, the spiders together and the arachnoids and stuff like that, we said, maybe it's time we venture out and we go, get our names out there and stuff like that. So I kind of waited. Mm-hmm. I started the tag team and Chaz Larry didn't want me to. He was like, do you know how hard it is to get booked as a tag team? No. He goes, think about it. How many tag team matches are on a card? 1, maybe 2. So you're taking yourself out of the picture because you're with 2 people and you have 9 matches and there's only 1 tag team match or 2 tag team matches, hops. Mm-hmm. He goes, so you got to be pretty different and special to stand out as a tag team. But there was just something about like the chemistry that me and Chaz always have was just there was just something there, and I was like, if we don't try it, we'll never know.
Moving around and doing like USWA and stuff, is that what got you on WWE's radar, or were you guys doing separate like?
So prior to even Chaz coming down to school, I used to go do jobs for WWE all the time. Mm-hmm. Because they predominantly ran up and down the East Coast. So we lived in South Jersey. So a lot of times Larry would get a call from WWE office, hey, we need, 10 extras for TV on whatever. I was at the very first Monday Night Raw from the Manhattan Center. I was on the second Monday Night Raw ever with Marty Jannetty from the Manhattan Center. So I was there for all that stuff. I saw it grow into, the what it is today. It's just insane. I wouldn't say we were on their radar, but they knew of us. Mm-hmm. From coming up and doing the jobs. Everybody always said, don't go up and do jobs. It's going to give you a bad name. You'll never get hired. Bull. We got hired because they knew who we were. We wrestled up there as the Spiders. We went to Smoky Mountain. Cornette made us the Headbangers. Cornette opened the door, said, hey, I got these guys. Why don't we give them a tryout? Blah, blah, blah. And next thing we know, we're on the part-time deals back then.
So how was it doing the part-time deals back then?
The part-time deals were great. They were phenomenal. All we did is we did TVs. We got X amount of dollars for 2 days, which was usually pretty up there. They covered all of our travel, hotels, everything. So it was easy money. I mean, you go up there, you got more in your match because the part-time deals were to make the matches better, to make the superstars even elevate them even higher. Because we were given offense, we were given, comebacks, we were given stuff. So it elevated it even higher. We were just so fortunate to be the only ones in that group, Salvatore Sincere, Freddie Joe Floyd, T.L. Hopper, the Goon. Us were all on part-time deals. We were the only ones to sign a full-time deal out of everybody. So we were pretty, Buddy Landell was on a part-time deal. So we were pretty lucky to sign the full-time contract after that.
What do you think made them switch from the part-time to the full-time with you guys?
We were getting over. There was absolutely a huge call for, merchandise. ShopWWE.com. For merchandise, for figures and stuff like that. It was funny because Bruce came up to us one time. He goes, "Hey guys, we're going to start making figures of you. We got to get you to go up to XYZ, and do the molds and stuff like that." And we're like, "Hey, hold on, wait a second. Merchandise isn't in our price-time contracts." He's like, yeah, we're going to talk about that too. So that's how we got the full-time contract. Because we got ourselves over.
Mm-hmm. And how was it, doing that, working that hard? You're getting the full-time contracts, you're getting action figures and video games, merchandise. Is that just a whole new world?
It's so funny because people always ask us that now. They're like, what was that like? What was it like, seeing yourself on, a video game or an action figure and stuff? And it's so hard to explain to somebody. I don't have words for it. It was just, we were just two kids from South Jersey that were lucky enough to make it. And it was just, but we never forgot where we came from. Once we made it, I didn't move into a big house. I lived in the same neighborhood that I grew up in, Linden Mall, New Jersey. That's where I was born and raised. And, I didn't move out of there until, years after that, probably 3 years into, my WWE stint. I moved out of the town and stuff like that, but we never forgot where we came because I was raised and Chaz was raised in this industry to never forget where you came from. Because for one, you're going to go up the same way you come down. You're going to see the same type of people and stuff like that. And the older guys in the business understand that because you start in gymnasiums and at fairs and stuff like that. And towards the end of your career, that's where you're at again. You're in the fairs and the gymnasiums and stuff like that. And if it wasn't for the fans, there would be no superstars. So we've never, ever forgotten that. And I'll never forget it. I don't say I go out of my way, but I make sure that somebody messages me. I talk back to them. It may take me a little while, but, I'll answer them on, any social media, stuff like that. So, it's definitely something that, yeah.
So how was it? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I forget what we were talking about.
So,
Jesus Christ.
Once you're signed to full-time deals and you're doing all this amazing stuff, what was it like, winning the tag team titles and just seeing you guys grow and grow and grow and grow and like solidifying that you guys, deserve this and this was like a big deal?
It was so funny because WrestleMania 13, I don't even think we were under a full-time deal at that time. I think we were still part-time at that time because that was, 1996? I think so, yeah. WrestleMania 13, I think it was 96. So I think we were still under our part-time deal, and we were just a fill-in in that match. We had no idea. And then when we won the belts in Lowville, Kentucky, we walk in the back door and Cornette's standing there. He goes, "Boys, come with me." And we're going, "Oh shit, what the hell did we do?" So he's like, no, come here, come on. He takes us all the way downstairs to the parking garage next to a dumpster and goes, "Boys," we're like, "Jimmy, we didn't do it. We're sorry. And if we did, we're sorry." He's like, no. He goes, "I had to bring you down here tonight because tonight you guys are becoming WWE Tag Team Champions." We're like, "Oh, cool." He's like, no. You didn't hear me. He goes, "You guys are becoming Tag Team Champs tonight." He goes, "I brought you down here because I know you two are idiots and you're going to jump around and scream and shout and everything else. So I brought you down here so we could all do it together." So then we all three of us started jumping around together and hugging each other and everything else. It was cool for Jimmy. He made the Headbanger name. He helped us, mature it into what it was and what it is. And he was there for us to tell us, some very important, steps in our career. So, without Cornette, there would probably be no Headbangers.
That's really cool.
He was very ahead of his time. And that's the thing with Cornette. Everybody wants to curse him and hate him and stuff like that. Cornette's the type if you don't want to know the answer, do not ask Jimmy the question because he's going to tell you how he sees it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny when in I want to say 2010 is when me and Chaz got back together. After I left WWE at the time, I fell off the face of the earth. I blew up to 315 pounds. It was terrible. I left altogether. Didn't want to have anything to do with it. And then Chaz was down in Florida. I was up in Maryland at the time. So we didn't see each other. We didn't really talk to each other. So he was having a 40th birthday party. Now, mind you, he just turned 54 in May. So me and the family were down at Disney for a vacation. So he was having a birthday party. So I went all the way over to Boca Raton, Florida, for his birthday, and all 315 pounds of me just rolled right in there. And so we got talking after that. He was like, "Listen, why don't you just move down here? We'll get back in the ring. We'll get you to lose some weight and everything else." So now at the time, I had 2 kids. They were both under 6. 9 dogs, because I had dogs that just had puppies. And they're Doberman pinchers, so that's kind of hard to travel with Doberman pinchers and 9 puppies. So I just packed up and moved, and I just came down to Florida. No place to live, no plan, no nothing. Just, hey, if we're going to do this, let's go do this. So lo and behold, Chaz is like, "Hey, I go to this gym. It's called UFit Gyms. Go check it out." So I went in there, and I was in there, sometimes, 2 times a day. Morning cardio, night I'd come back and do lifting and some more cardio. I lost over 100 pounds. I was down to probably 210, 215, but I was so skinny and my head is, I guess, so big. I look like I was sick. So then I came back up and I'm hovering right around 250, 255, 260ish. When I was in WWE, I was 240. So, and then we saw Cornette. We did a show in Fort Lauderdale, and we said, "Cornette, Jimmy, watch us. Tell us what you think." And I knew we were going to get the straightest and honest answer we possibly could. So after the match, he brings us in the back. He's like, "Come here." He's like, "Boys, it looked like 1997 all over again." And he was being dead honest. And lo and behold, that's how we became on Ring of Honor and, Guardians of Truth or whatever we were called and all that stuff. So yeah, it was cool.
Very cool. Is there any particular moments in WWE that stand out more than others for you during your career there?
WrestleMania 13, winning the tag belts, I guess, winning the hardcore belt for 37 seconds. Just the whole thing to watch it. WCW was beating the shit out of us for a while with the ratings and stuff like that. And we always used to go over, because they would replay their show at 11 o'clock at night. So we were able to watch our segment versus, their segment, whatever was running together. So it was always like, hey, we got to make sure our segment's better and stuff like that. It was a different business back then. It's the camaraderie with the guys and the family aspect and stuff like that. It wasn't nothing to go into a locker room and seeing Undertaker and Godfather sitting there playing dominoes, or go into another locker room and see Earl Hebner and Mike sitting there playing Crazy Eights and cards and stuff. It was going to another locker room and you see D'Lo there sitting there playing, Nintendo and PlayStation and that stuff. So it was different back then. It was very family oriented. Like it was so weird back then. Whenever we wrestled over in Philly, I would bring my oldest kids because they lived over in South Jersey at the time. Well, they're my oldest kids now. Back then they were. So they would come to the matches. And Owen would be in the cafeteria with them, sitting there coloring and stuff like that. China would be out in, the arena playing hide and seek with them. It was just, it felt like very family. Everybody I felt, now this is my opinion, everybody I felt knew what their position was in the company. I knew, and, you know, we weren't the main event or anything else like that. We were there either to jumpstart the crowd at being first match, or after you come back from intermission for a house show, you want to re-jump the crowd back up and stuff like that. We knew what our position was in the company. We were lucky enough to get the belts. Even though we had them for about a month, it was still enough to elevate us. And the belts are a prop to elevate you and stuff like that, and to get you more popular, sell more merchandise, and all that stuff. So we were lucky enough to have all that. It's weird because we were just in Nova Scotia, Halifax, Nova Scotia last weekend, and I was talking to somebody. I said, we were never the ones that did any kind of politicking. So we were always, hey, you need somebody to go do a meet and greet? We'll do it. Hey, you need somebody to go do that Super Circle commercial? Hey, we'll do it. You need somebody to go do that? We'll do it. We never said no to anything. And it's funny because later you find out, Road Dogg told us, he goes, you guys were supposed to beat us for the belts a couple times. And I went into Vince and said, it wasn't the right time yet. I was like, no, you, and that's so Jesse. That's so Jesse. And it's so funny because we weren't into that stuff. We didn't do that. So, we just, like I said, we were two local kids from South Jersey that were just living a dream. The rock star life.
Towards the end of your WWE career, did they have any plans for you on what they wanted to do with you specifically? I know you went and did some stuff, and was it Memphis, their developmental then for a little bit?
So what happened is I blew out my knee, and this is when Chaz did the whole beaver cleavage gimmick and stuff like that. I was supposed to come back. I don't know if you guys or anybody will remember, but Bruce Prichard used to go down to the ring during the hardcore matches, and he would steal an item from around the ring, and he would run back. So I was coming back as the evil clown Doink, after my knee surgery and stuff like that. But then the thing with beaver cleavage it would have taken off, but it got too much, I guess, heat, for one thing or another. So they just put us back together. It was just, easier that way and stuff like that. So.
Is that what were they having you do when you were in their developmental territory for?
Just getting back in shape. It was the first real injury I ever had in my life. Like, I never had a surgery. I broke my nose several times, but I never had a surgery. And when I was out, I was afraid to do anything. It's a lot of it is funny because I used to talk to Steve about it. He said a lot of the stuff, like the braces and stuff like that everybody wears, it's just for your head. It really, it's more so once you have it surgically repaired, it's surgically repaired. It's good. But us as people, we go, no, it's not. And I had the worst time trying to get over it. So it was like I wasn't running the right way. I was taking too many steps in the ring. It was in my head entirely too much. So I went down there for a while trying to get over it. And I don't think I actually ever really did, even when I came back and me and Chaz got back together and stuff like that. I don't think I ever really got over it until I left and I came back with Chaz. Now I know. Yeah. I had another knee surgery, so I know. And that one is phenomenal. But the first one is terrible. It's still bad. But yeah. So that was the biggest hurdle, is trying to get over something so dramatic. I mean, it was my ACL, it was my meniscus. They had to go back in because they tried to repair the meniscus. It didn't take, so then they had to go in and cut part of it out. And It was just, it was a lot. And it really, it messed with my head bad.
Yeah.
And if you've never had a surgery, have never been in sports and stuff like that, I mean, you hear it all the time from the NFL and stuff like that. Oh, he came back. He didn't come back right.
Mm-hmm.
And they're out for a year almost. I was out for about 9 months, and it messed with my head bad. Yeah.
What was it like coming back to WWE all these years later and getting that reaction that you guys got?
Wow. In 2016, it was cool because for me, it was almost like a full circle.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chance to have my older kids at the time. They didn't really understand why daddy was away, why daddy wasn't here for birthdays, special occasions and stuff like that. So they grew up a lot without me being there. Um, so when we came back and we wrestled actually in Newark, New Jersey, the second time we were back on SmackDown, they were actually in the building and saw it live. So for me, that was such a unbelievable thing for me because then they could look at it and hopefully not resent dad for not being there and see what took him away. Like, cause they never really understood. My oldest daughter, she'd go into kindergarten and she'd take my action figure with her and she was always so happy and so proud and everything else. She came home from school and she was like, I was like, Paige, what's the matter? She was like, nobody else had an action figure of their daddy. I was like, well, daddy has a different kind of job. It's a little strange. Like, she didn't really understand we'd be out in public and stuff like that, and somebody would come over for an autograph. She was like, no, it's my daddy.
Yeah.
She didn't understand it. She was, 4.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
How is life now? You guys have this Legends deal, and you have these
So,
really
yeah.
cool figures, the new merchandise.
Yes. Awesome figures.
It really is like a full circle, like the appreciation aspect of it now. Like, thank you for everything that you've done.
And you know what I think it is? It's Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
I think Hunter has a lot to do with it. I don't know if Hunter had anything to do with our deal. I know how we did get our deal. Like we did a lot of card signings for Panini cards,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody from Mattel saw the cards and called the office and said, "Hey, we want to do figures of the Headbangers. They haven't had figures in up teen years, and it would be awesome." And they were like, "Well, we don't own their name. We did."
Mm-hmm.
So the office contacted us, told us the story, and of course we were like, "Hell yeah!" So yeah, it was a complete, 180, just awesome kind of thing to have that and everything else. The deal and to have awesome T-shirts and be on the last 2 video games and have action figures out that I may be biased, but I think they're the damn best looking action figures out there. To have your own box. I love the fact that they came out with our own box and it separated us from, a lot of the other stuff and everything else. I love when people come up and they have it and they say, "Can you sign these?" We went to one signing and somebody had the very first ones and he had the very last ones and he had them next to each other. And it was such a cool moment. It was badass.
How is life now?
So life is pretty good. Me and my wife, we have a travel company.
Mm-hmm.
It's called G&G Getaways. We book trips for people, vacations, destination vacations. I figured with my 35 plus years of traveling, and she's the planner of both of us. She loves to do it. We go on tons of cruises and getaways, and we're always up at Disney and Universal and Busch Gardens. We were like, what a better thing. Let somebody else experience what we have. And let's take the burden off of them and let's plan it ourselves for them. So, we just started that. We started doing a lot of, stuff on Instagram and TikTok and trying to document what we're doing and stuff like that. It's kind of, that's a different world, man.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. We tried to do it on our last cruise, which we got back 3 weeks ago, and we tried to document everything. It's work. It's a lot of work. Just staying busy, doing, as many shows as me and Chaz really want to do. but it's dwindling down. Our time in the ring is definitely. I'm 56. He's 54. We're not getting any younger. And it hurts a lot more now. It was funny because, like I said, last weekend we were in Nova Scotia and we wrestled Friday night and Saturday. And I'll tell you what, I'm still feeling it today. And it's just the recovery time's longer. It's time. So, we have something planned. We're going to make an official announcement probably soon. Don't know how much more I want to say about it. But yeah, our time's definitely, drawing to an end. But we still want to do the signings because we love getting out there, seeing everybody, seeing the guys we used to, wrestle with and just meeting all the fans and stuff like that. So, yeah, we'll still be around.
Where can people reach out to you at?
They can catch me on Facebook. Glenn Ruth on Facebook. They can get me on Twitter. I'm not really on X. I'm not really on that all that much. I am on TikTok. They can hit me up any which way they can. So.
Well, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out to come on today, sir. Thank you for what you've done for professional wrestling and what you continue to do.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
And if there's ever anything that I can do, please feel free to reach out.
Okay, I need my car washed. Are you available?
I will do that for you, sir.
Do you live in Florida?
I live in southern Indiana. It might take me.
Oh, Jesus. You're going to have to pay your own tran.
Damn.
All right.
I appreciate your time, sir.
All right, man. Have a good day.